There was a period in my life where I completely forgot who I was. Not on purpose, not overnight, but slowly, piece by piece, until one day it felt like my entire identity had shrunk down to one tiny label. And if you've ever felt like you lost yourself somehow, I want to tell you this story. When I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, something happened that I didn't recognize at the time. My world got really small. My confidence got small. And I got small. I stopped seeing the woman with a lifetime of achievements. I stopped seeing the Olympian. I stopped seeing the All-American high school basketball player who was ranked number 4 in the nation. I stopped seeing the corporate leader who handled high-pressure roles without blinking. I stopped seeing the competitor, the fighter, the achiever. I basically stopped seeing all of who I was. Instead, I saw someone who had been through a traumatic episode, someone who had made a lot of mistakes, someone who was struggling, someone who, in my mind, had somehow lost her shine. And the truth? I stayed stuck in that identity far too long. I had some painful, tragic, disorienting experiences that came with bipolar disorder. Moments that really, really shook me. Moments that scared me. Moments that made me feel like I wasn't the same person anymore. And instead of holding the full picture of my life, all the strength, all the accomplishments, all the wins, I focused on the darkest chapters. I got stuck in those dark chapters. I let them define me. And when you focus only on your wounds, your world starts to feel like a wound. I was shrinking myself down to the hardest moment of my life, instead of the biggest truths of who I was. And sometimes other people reinforce those smaller moments. And then it's funny how this works. Someone held up a mirror. Not a literal one, but a reflection of me. Someone who saw all the pieces I had forgotten. They said things like, "Amy, you're an Olympian. You're an All-American. You had a corporate career people dream of. You're a leader, a builder, a coach." And hearing those words, it felt like remembering a life I had misplaced. It was kind of like waking up from a long sleep, like someone had reached into the fog and handed me back my identity. It honestly shocked me, because I realized how far I had drifted from the truth. That moment, it really sparked something. A new wave of confidence, a new wave of self-respect, a new understanding of my own value. Not because I suddenly became someone new, but because I remembered who I had been all along. And I want you to hear this. You haven't lost who you are either. Your accomplishments, your strengths, your gifts, your history, they're still there. Even if pain or illness or trauma made you forget for a while. You're not defined by the hardest moment of your life. You're not reduced to your struggles. You are not limited by one chapter in your story. And don't let other people limit you either. Sometimes you just need a reminder. Sometimes your soul needs someone to say, "You're still in there. You didn't disappear." And so finally, if you're watching this and you feel lost or small or unsure of who you are anymore, let this be your reminder. You are bigger than the labels, stronger than the doubts, more powerful than the hardest thing you've survived. You don't need permission to rise. You just need a moment that reminds you that you can. And if no one else has said it to you lately, I'll say it. You are still in there, and you are allowed to rise again.